Perfect.
Hello, Sydney. Welcome back to the
Hi, James.
James Manus show. I welcome you back. We have some extra people on today, which is fantastic. I like when people join. We got Jessica Johnson on, and Scott is on joining us from Colorado, I believe you said, right, Scott? Okay, so we're going to talk today a little more add on to our traditional storage versus boat and RV storage. So, as some people know who've watched my other videos or subscribed to my YouTube channel, I do own a boat and RV facility down the coast of um, Texas, the Gulf Coast there, and also standard traditional what some people call mini storage or self storage or whatever. I own those as well. And eventually probably something of the combination of the two, um, because sometimes it works out. So so since we last spoke, Sydney, you said that you've learned some different things and some new stuff or something to that nature. We were talking before we started recording. So that to me is interesting because I like to learn new stuff. So that's why I'm here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let me teach you something. Again, my name is Sydney. I'm with the storage manager, and I specialize in RV and boat. I specialize in RV and boat storage, and I'm over our RV and boat division. And just over the last little bit, we've had a couple of facilities for a couple of years now, and so we've been able to kind of track more of the trends that come with that. So your lease up period, we're tracking more of just your um, seasonality and the trends that come with that, especially on funny years where it stays cold longer or it's warm a little bit longer, and just kind of what that looks like. So boat and RV storage is fun because we call them clientele. We don't call them tenants because they have a different set of needs that they want catered to from the beginning of buying their boat, buying their RV. They have been taught to want a Class A experience. They want someone to walk with them through the process and someone who actually speaks their language, which is always very interesting because we have seen in different areas of the country that people want spoken to in different ways. And so being able to adjust to that and adjust your language, and if you have a call center, your scripts to that and things of that sort of communication is extremely important. We have one facility that's in a northern climate where people don't really want communication. They just, it's like, hey, let us move in. We're going to park our trailer or whatever, or boat, and that's it. You have an app, cool, let's get that set up, whatever it may be. And then we have people in the south who want more of a hand-holding experience. And so that's been interesting. We had some gate problems at one of our facilities, and in order to accommodate that, we had left a gate open. And while we didn't have the answers yet, we hadn't communicated anything to tenants. And so we had two or three call in and we're like, hey, yeah, we're working on a solution. And that wasn't a good enough answer. And they were like, well, why weren't we notified the second that the gate went down? And so I was just explaining to them, hey, I'm not going to call you when I don't know what's wrong or how long it's going to take. Let me find out answers, and then I will definitely send out a communication. And so we found that they responded better to that, which we hadn't been expecting. I mean, your self-storage client, a gate goes down or whatever, they'll call in, they need access to the facility, whatever it is, and you can find a different way to combat that. But when someone's got a 30-foot trailer hooked up or they're trying to leave town to meet up with their friends, you have to cater to their schedule.
Yeah. So we've we've had some gate issues quite a bit at the boat and RV facility, down to the point where we've replaced the motor twice. Okay, so the first time the motor just crapped out. It was an old motor. We were hoping to get away with it for a while. We replaced it. Um, one day it didn't open for somebody. I don't know. We used spider doors, so it could be that they were locked out, but they decided they
Mhm.
were getting in anyway. Of course, I have a camera on there. I have a third party management running it, so I don't know if They saw what happened, but let's just say the gate was off the track. So that tells me somebody decided they were going to just make their way in regardless. Um, and then that motor, that motor didn't get damaged at that time. What what had happened is that because the wiring inside is made out of more natural materials, unlike plastic, the critters decided to eat the wires. So they ate the wires, they ate the motherboard, they whatever they wanted to eat. So then that motor was shot. So we went and
Mhm.
we replaced it with a, now that was a used motor, but it was one we had on the facility that we knew we weren't going to use anymore and we knew it worked. So we swapped them out, put that on there, was working fine, and now we went and bought a brand new, they're not cheap. So I don't off the top of my head know the price, but they're not cheap, and we got that replaced and hooked up and is working fine. But yes, a lot of people have questions of like, why is the gate open? Somebody can back in there and take my trailer, whether it's an RV trailer, whether it's a boat trailer, on the open parking. That's more of what I'm speaking of. Um,
Yeah.
so you have to answer those questions, and sometimes you don't have the direct answer of like, okay, well, we're down at the coast. I got to get somebody that knows about these gates to come down to the coast if they're not local and work on it for us. Now, fortunately, my partner in crime down there, he owns a construction company, so he's only 2 hours away, so he can get out there quick enough to remedy it at least temporarily in most situations.
Well,
Um,
and I don't know if you've seen the same thing too, being down there on the coast, just because finding, well, and it's been a problem since COVID. I think that's something we can all agree on here, is even finding a contractor that will show up in a decent amount of time is extremely difficult just due to a lot of those skilled laborers, they kind of disappeared during that. They've joined bigger groups, whatever it might be. And so you're just seeing like, oh, well, I can get someone out there quick, but they're not going to know what they're doing. Or hey, I'm going to get someone out there who knows what they're doing and will fix it the first time, but it's going to be so expensive. And so, you know, it's just such a tug of war game because gates are so important, especially for boat and RV storage, because these aren't just, family heirlooms or furniture or someone moving and its decorations. This is someone's adventure wagon, if you will. This is their weekends on the lake.
yeah.
This is taking their grandkids camping,
Some of it's
um,
their retirement
going
money.
across the country. And exactly. And so these are just such a higher priced item, and there's so much more value placed on them that it's hard to find that balance sometimes of, okay, well, how do we keep professionalism in what we know here versus accommodating a customer and the needs that they do have, just because we want to do a good job, we want to get out there, we want to get the problem fixed. And so if it's a reoccurring issue, it's like, okay, what's really going on here? Is it human error? Is it gate error? And so you can just really cater to their experience. And what we've found is setting people up from the get-go for what to expect helps. So if someone moves in with a boat or an RV to any of our facilities, and they're asking us questions, we're asking them questions back. And one of the things that we found that we need to ask is, okay, so you're going to be moving in. Yes, there are gates. However, we do also recommend that you also always check to make sure everything is locked up on your boat or your RV, everything is closed up. Make sure that you haven't stored any food items just to avoid any critters. Make sure that you do have a hitch lock if you're okay with your customers having hitch locks. I know that I would prefer to just put a boot on someone's boat or RV trailer than a hitch lock. I think that it can complicate things that way. But there's just so many more questions that come into play when you're really thinking about these customers, because I don't know about you, but delinquency is kind of a thing of the past when you look at boat and RV storage. We had a couple of old U-Hauls that someone had abandoned on one of our properties. And so we called up the tow company after we talked to the customer, and they're like, yeah, I'm not coming back for those. We had them just sign a release form. tow truck came, got them off the property, we were done.
Right.
It's that simple. We had one delinquent tenant at one of our other facilities, and we had contacted him, said, "Hey, we're going to be towing this off the property at the end of the month if you don't come get it." Uh, had the bank actually reach out to us because there was a lien on it, which was great. And so they reached out to us. They paid the past due fees. They said, "Hey, we're coming to get it." They came, they got it, and we were done.
Right.
So it's a little bit easier of a cleanup process if you have the right things in your lease agreement to outline what that looks like, which was game changing. I know it sounds silly to some people to look at, "Oh, I have one delinquent." Well, why? Why are they delinquent? Have we done all we could to reach them? Have we tried talking to them? What's actually going on here? Because having a full picture allows you to work with these people in a different way too. If it's like, hey, it's not a full storage unit that they need to come spend a day moving out. It's something that they could just come take off the property. So if it's more worth it for you to get a paying tenant into that space or that unit, hey, come get your trailer. You have until, you know, 48, 72 hours from now, send them a written notice, whatever your state law delineates that you do in your lease outlines. Call them, make arrangements, have them just come get it off the property so it's not your problem anymore.
So do you with having boat and RV, do you make it mandatory for insurance of like tenant protection or tenant insurance?
So what we have mandated at our facilities is that a tenant must carry their own insurance, and we do want proof of that. We offer tenant protection as almost a residual or an additional product for them to use because if you're thinking about it, these are hundreds of thousands of dollars of vehicles to millions of dollars sometimes.
Mhm.
And so you want to make sure that you're covering them. And so if your protection plan can cover a catalytic converter so they don't have to take out an insurance claim, that's going to work more in their favor. And so just explaining the benefits of the protection plan as an additional source of protection for their vehicles
Right.
has been awesome. We've seen a lot more success since we started presenting it that way than we did as, "Oh yeah, well, you have your own insurance, but you should use our protection plan too." No, you have to really educate the client as to what that's going to cover for them. Is it going to cover, theft, or does it not cover theft? Is it going to cover your catalytic converter or not? Is it going to cover, a battery being stolen off your vehicle? What does that actually look like? And how easy is it for the customer to go through that rather than insurance and risk it going up and try to track other people down and sending in camera footage or whatever it may be? How does this benefit your client and how does it benefit you?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at so we got Cedric's on here. Cedric, good to see you again. Thanks for coming out, joining. I can't read the name on the other one. I have to put my glasses on. Let's see what we got here. We got Eswar, I think his name is, or her name, I'm not sure. No picture. So welcome out to join us. So we're talking about boat and RV versus traditional storage um, uh, with Sydney for you guys that haven't seen any of the videos that we've done together before. Um, so so the storage manager, your group is it all over the United States or do you guys specific area?
So right now we're primarily in the central and eastern time zones. However, we are looking to expand more into that mountain time zone as well, just because we've seen that there is a need over here, especially for a skilled management company to come over here that's not necessarily one of the bigger names. And one of the value, I mean, the value that we bring to that is we're not looking to manage everyone. We're not looking to overload, our systems and our processes. What we want to do is we want to provide the most value and provide the best experience, not only for our owners, but for our clients. And so we have decades of experience in our company at this point. We've hired several people that have been in the field for years, and so with that experience comes the ability for us to use tried and true practices while also looking at the new features, the new technology, the new things that contribute to client experience, testing them on our owner facilities, and then introducing that to our owner investors as, hey, we've tried and tested this. This is going to work great for your facility. This is going to add value in this way. We would like to roll it out, or hey, this isn't going to work. And we recently just did that with Truck Parking Club as just an additional revenue source. Because what's a better way to, while you're waiting to lease up your boat and RV facility, than to allow truckers to come and park and have a designated spot for them. You can set your rules, everything along those lines, and it's great. It's a simple service, and Andrew and his team have done a great job setting it up and making it easy for self-storage owners to add more value through that.
Now, so with that being said, I own a, I don't, I'm making this scenario up. I own a piece of property. I'm gonna fence it in and put a gate on it, some cameras, and that's all I'm gonna do. Can I turn it into a truck parking lot?
I mean, I don't see why you couldn't. I think that you're providing a lot of value there. You have a gate, you have cameras, you set it up through their app, and so then you get the split with them, and it's a fantastic resource. And not only that, but you're helping, another niche of people out because there's your class A boat and RV facility is not going to allow truckers to come park in there. They're
Right.
just not. But if you have a class B or C facility, you can make a space that is specifically for those vehicles that's not an eyesore, not like a truck yard. It's a way to allow these people a place to park their vehicle that's going to be safe, whether that be for hours, days, weeks, months, years. It's a really cool resource.
Hmm. That's pretty interesting. Um, so what are you seeing what are you seeing out there as far as the biggest issue in the management side of any of the properties as far as boat and RV or storage, traditional storage? What are you seeing as the biggest headache? Aha.
I think that the biggest headache for a lot of people right now is what they can control as far as their facility goes. So you're seeing a lot more people pay attention to, okay, it's no longer the race to the bottom for rates. No one wants to race to the bottom. It's proving your facility's value over one, 100 yards down the road or across the street, whatever it may be. It's how are you really setting yourself apart? And so, with boat and RV, it's easy. You're allowing, larger, oversized vehicles. You can provide some niche services like ice machines, vending machines with various RV parts that always break, things like that. But with your traditional storage facility, it's three walls and a door. And so it's okay, am I going to go with Joe Schmo down the street who showed me the unit and it looked nice, but, wasn't very talkative, wasn't very personable? Or are you going to go with the newer one down the street that maybe has a better gate system that's easier for you to work with that also caters to the population that is around it. So if you're in an area where people are mostly, 50, 60 plus that maybe aren't as technology friendly, because unfortunately that does still exist, they're going to choose a different experience than, your college town kids that are like, "Oh, I get an app. Oh, I can pay through it. Oh, my everything's electronic. I can Bluetooth with my phone." People want different experiences, and so you have to keep that in mind when you're building any kind of facility, really.
So I guess depending on the location as well, because if you're near a college, then you might want to have more technology. And take it easy on the 50 and 60-year-old people. We know technology, okay? We were
Okay.
we were we were
Yes.
creating the technology when it wasn't existent for y'all young people.
Well, and I think it's more awareness. There's a lot more awareness in the industry than there ever has been. And it's not just focusing on rates anymore. It's focusing on that experience, on how quickly you're handling issues. Is it something that has to be escalated through, or is it something that can be handled on one phone call without having to call the customer back? So they're worried longer, or they're anxious longer, or angry, right? Depending on the situation. Or is it something you can do remote and still give the client that experience, or do you need that on-site management? And not every facility is the same. That's just the fact. It doesn't matter. I mean, storage is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. There's still revenue management, there's market considerations, there's so much more to it that you really have to be looking at. And it takes a minute sometimes, and so always getting fresh eyes is never a bad idea. I mean, if you're a facility owner or investor, like go walk your properties, go put fresh eyes on it that maybe someone your on-site manager isn't seeing, things like that, just to know, ask, feel free to ask the questions, but also you have to have a lot of trust there for the experts.
So I know that on a couple of the facilities, I have access to the cameras, and I like to just go through every once in a while, just look at all the cameras, right? And
Hmm.
not to check up on our employee as much as I'm checking up on the facility. Is it being mowed when it needs to be mowed? Is it something where, like, is there trash around? Is there people abusing because especially I have a class, well, most of my properties are class C properties. Clientele changes a bit from class A to class C. So sometimes you got to go like, what's this guy doing and what's this outside of their, well, we also have RV camp spots. So, we go, hey, why does that lot look like Sanford and Son, and why are they having a 24/7 yard sale, that nobody knows about except for them. And sometimes you have to just say, hey, what's going on? And most of the time when I address it, especially with the third party management company, they're like, yeah, we're already on that, but it takes time. So
Yep.
I go, okay, well, if I look in a week, is that enough time? Or no, well, we have to give them a 30-day, fiction or whatever it is, because they're a little different in some of the spots and some of the states and all. So I noticed that, I check back and then I go, okay, yeah, it's taken that long, but, and the damage is done already. But um it also takes, so my thing is, it always also, it takes time for things to happen like that, right? Sure, somebody can
Yeah.
come in there and clean out their boat and dump all their trash on the ground in one afternoon and leave, right? Never come back. Sure, that can happen. But when things start to, I put a chair out in front of my facility today, or outside of my unit today, and then tomorrow there's a chair and two boxes, and then the next day there's two chairs, four boxes, and a canopy. And the next thing, and that build up is where I go, hey, like day two, that there was more stuff out there should be, whoop, all right, you know, you
Well,
know,
and again, that's where we get back into that client experience and knowing the market you're in. Because if you have the right people in place that are paying attention to your facility in the way that it needs attention, and they've learned how it needs attention, if it's in a troubled area where there is going to be a lot of drop off, making sure that your maintenance person is there, an hour every day in the evening or whatever it may be, or in the morning if that's when, you're noticing more things are happening between 9 in the morning and 9 at night. So the next day they're there at 9 in the morning, they get everything cleaned up. Or, hey, this facility, needs maintenance and units cleaned out one, two, three times a week, or however it is, you need someone who's actually paying attention to what that looks like and how it ebbs and flows. So that way your facility is getting the attention it needs. I mean, I have cameras for two of our facilities on my phone. I get notifications. Just because we've had some interesting situations that happen with storage. And
yeah,
so that way I can just keep an eye on it. If it's like, oh, it's 11 o'clock at night, why is there someone there? You can pull it up on your cameras to look, just because for some of our facilities, we have a lot of those early morning fishermen that are leaving around 3 a.m. and trying to get out there to catch the fish, right? And we have people, coming to grab their campers at 4 because they want to be on the road at 6. And they come and they prep it the night before and do the best they can, but sometimes they just need to pull out a little earlier. And so you want to make sure that you're catering to the people that you are actively serving in that community, while also really keeping an eye on your maintenance, the scheduling for that. What does your camera maintenance look like? How is your gate maintenance? Are you staying on top of that so it's not just, oh no, there's a problem, like, and your customers are the first people to catch it. If you're doing those regular inspections and setting those things up on a regular basis, you should never have that problem.
yeah. And some of the stuff I make up, like when I'm talking about it, like, just because, like, I've seen it over time at different facilities. I've gone to some facilities to walk the facilities to, not even secret shop, but kind of secret shop when I'm looking to purchase or something like that, and I've gone to the property and I, come around the corner and I go, "Whoa, people moving out today?" Because it kind of looks like they their doors shut and all their stuff's on the outside now, and I walked a place up here in New Jersey. There's a fellow local to me that wants to get into storage, and he was like, I want to go see these facilities. Not that they're for sale, but I want to go and see. And there was
Get a
this,
feel for them.
yeah, and we wanted to walk the property. And of course, we went in there, and we were like, yeah, we own a business, and we're blah blah blah. We want to look at your 10 by 20s. We want to look at your 10 by, and they take us around. And I was walking along, and they have a 6 foot fence, and on the other side of the 6 foot fence, there were just bags of trash that people cleaned out their units. They didn't leave them outside their unit. They literally went bloop and threw them over to the other side. And I was just like, and that's not even the facility's property,
No.
and I'm like, oh, that's horrible. Like, and it's not like it's a wooden fence. It's a metal, like I can see them, which is pretty
Yeah,
bad, right? With my eyes, I can see them, right? So, and it happens, and I understand. And so, there's there's all different types of people, and they're going to allow that, not allow it. They're going to do whatever they want. So
exactly. And so one of the things is just always be aware too of who you're renting to and what they do look like and who is coming on the property. And we ask for all of our new boat and RV clients. We say, "Hey, can you send us a picture of your trailer or your boat from two different angles so we can just see what you're storing." We do make sure to get license plate numbers as well as tags for boats just to make sure that it is what's supposed to be in the space. We have a couple customers that switch things out seasonally. So in the winter, they pull out their camper and they put their boat in their spot. And so
right,
they just let us know then. And so we have a note on their account that says maybe boat or RV, depending on the season. We even have some folks that have motorhomes stored, and so what they'll do is they'll bring their daily driver and they'll park that in their spot while they're gone. And we do still ask them to be like, "Hey, okay, can you just, make sure you let us know when that's going to be there?" Usually when they send over their insurance policy, it's already listed, so we don't have to ask for that frequently. But we do just like to keep an eye on what's going where,
yeah, because then
because, well,
because
you
then
have to
one
know what's
one
going on.
thing's gone and another thing's there, and you're like going, why is this car here? Right? And it's been here for
Hmm.
2 weeks, and it's in the spot where this guy is supposed to have his RV. Did somebody just pull it in there? Did somebody steal it, park it there? Like what, was the gate open and somebody slipped in? I mean, people,
Exactly. Well, and making sure that if you are running things, from a remote perspective, making sure you are looking over your access logs, seeing if there's anything weird. I mean, as a management company, I know that that's one thing that we kind of train our people to look for if they're having a lot of gate problems or seeing something funny on the cameras. We're like, check the access logs. Is someone going in right before close and coming out right when it opens? Like, you
right?
have to be extra aware because these are actually homes on wheels.
Yeah,
People can easily live in one of these if they wanted to.
yeah.
So
Like
we
our
have our
facility
maintenance guys.
has,
We're like, look for signs that anyone's living there. If you find something interesting, let us know so we can like look back and see if there's something. But we really try to keep an eye on everything, just from not only a security standpoint, from a safety standpoint. We don't want anyone to have any problems. We don't want to invite anything onto the properties that would be that would end not well. Let's put it
right.
that way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because then you leave yourself up open for liability on different aspects of things. And I get it. Does anybody have questions? I saw the screen moved around. I don't know if somebody raised their hand or not. So I can't see those at all. For some reason, Cedric moved to the top. Do you have a question, Cedric? Any comments? Anybody
I
want
do,
to comment?
I do not. I do not have a question.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'm happy to answer whatever I can. I've seen a little bit of everything at this point. Um, and definitely still learning. There's a lot to learn about just how some of these people think, do they want to pull out in the summer or do they prefer to pull out in the fall? We've seen both. Just depending on the area, can be pretty heavy move in, move out seasons, not just your typical spring lease up, that kind of tapers off in September. Um, and so it's just, again, you need to look at your facility and pay attention to your market, because that's the only thing that's going to set you apart. Is if, you have those people that are pulling out in the spring because they do go travel. If that's the area you're in, be aware of that trend. If there's students, be aware of when they're moving out for the summer and when they're coming back for the fall, because you're going to see that fluctuation. And if you know when to market and what to market in those times, it can provide a little bit more stability for those facilities.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm finding out about the Gulf Coast, if you're able to get anything down in that area, is that that season is almost all year round, which is fantastic because people are moving in and out all the time. I mean, I could have 10 move-ins and 10 move-outs in the same week just because, hey, we're traveling, we're going from the Gulf Coast to, West Coast of Tech or the west side of Texas state, or or we just got down here and we need a place to park, and we're gonna go back home or whatever, like and being like a fishing town where we are, we're a quarter mile from the bay. There's probably 10 marinas within a quarter mile. Like it's a lucrative spot that we're in. So I try to recommend if you're near a lake or if you're near any of that stuff, especially in Texas where it's, let's call it generally warm enough to do stuff outside all year round, or too hot because
Yeah.
I spent a month there one week, in July and August, and it was brutal. Um, but I enjoyed it because, being at the facility, I actually stayed on the facility. Like I said, we have RV spots there that you can camp at. Um, and I actually stayed there, and it was interesting to see because it was at the beginning when we bought the property and we had to get some of the riffraff out, and being there, and then people knowing that I'm the new owner, and they decided that, they're going to knock on my door at, 11 o'clock at night to tell me that there's a fist fight, and I'm like, what? Like, this is a storage facility. It's not a nightclub, like and you learn a lot, and then um like I said, we brought in, a third party management company. They've done fantastically, a fantastic job there where they got rid of the riffraff. We collected all the past dues. I literally right now have no past due money. I mean, if it's $150 today, I didn't check today, but if it's $150, I would be surprised, which is great
Yeah.
because in the whole point of the clientele's different. They're storing something that's worth something, and they give a shit about it, right? Whereas if
Yeah.
you're storing knickknacks and stuff that you don't know what to do with, and I mean, trust me, I love self storage too. Like, I the rest of my properties are all self storage, but I've noticed that there's a difference between the clientele and the customers or tenants versus clients, and I get what you're saying about that because they're actually coming in for to protect and store something of value, and they're looking for that little bit of extra stuff like a remote control for their door so that they can just back their truck right up to the door and go and then back in and hook up their, and then pull out and then and off they go, right?
Exactly. Well, and at the end of the day, no, there's no one who's coming back from the lake with their family and their kids are screaming and the wife is grumpy because she has to deal with the kids are screaming and he's trying to back up the trailer and he might need her help and then they're sitting there yelling at each other. You want to make that process as seamless as possible for these people. You want to make it so it's easy for them to get in, get out quickly, efficiently, and so that way they can get home, everyone gets settled again in the evening or however it may be. And how you set up your facility is going to directly impact that for those clients.
Now, have you ever been to a facility with a complete ground up lease up property?
Yes, I have seen a couple of those, and they can be hit or miss just depending on the environments that they're in. I mean, we all kind of saw it, through those COVID years. It seemed like everyone was building, and it's like, oh yeah, if this is the same trajectory we're going to see, and then things slowed down, and people just weren't prepared, right?
Right.
And so having a real lease up strategy that can hit the variances in those years is going to be important. You have to think very realistically about what the economy is doing. You need to take just a step back from, oh, let's just say that we're going to lease up, 5 to 10% a month. Like that's rare. Like even for a facility that is hit stabilization, if you're seeing a jump like that, it's like, okay, it's a sign to either raise your rents or slow down, or you have to pay attention to find that medium. So I think that what I've read is that a healthy rate of growth is about 3% a month for a lease up facility. And in what I've seen, that tends to be a little bit true. And unfortunately, it's not what a lot of people want to hear. They want to hear like in those good lease up months that they're going to get 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15%. And that might happen in some areas, but it might not. And so really making sure that if you do build your facility, you're catering to the different kinds of clients that you're going to see. If you're seeing class A's, so you want fully enclosed. If you're seeing um, more camper trailers that people just want covered so they're not being as damaged as they would in their yard,
Right.
then you want to have, that canopy. Or if you're having people that just need a place to park because unfortunately they live in an HOA, they don't, it's just it's a place to park for them. Make sure you're having some open parking, make sure your facility has a good mix so you can capture someone. If the fully enclosed class A unit is too expensive for them, then offer them that class B or class C. Have different strategies to retain the customer at your facility, because your competitors might not be doing that. They may only offer one product. And if that's the case, then they're going to look for someone that fits what they're actually looking for.
Yeah. Going through acquisitions and trying to find other properties that complement the properties that we already own. Obviously, location to the existing property, so you can do either a hub and spoke, or at least, within a distance that you can say, hey, you're looking for something a little bit nicer than that. If you go to our other facility right down here, that's what we have. So I noticed doing that, the price obviously goes up, right? So, and there's a facility about 4 blocks away that I've been working on for the last probably the same amount of time that I was working on the property that we have. And it still hasn't sold yet, but they're asking way too much money for it based off of what I see in the underwriting, right? So that facility, all concrete. It's in Texas, obviously, all concrete. All the doors are at minimum 14 by 45, right? So, they have remote gates, they have remote doors. Everything is, it's that nice class B property. It's not big, but it's a nice class B property to be able to offer that to the client that comes into the office, especially because we can run it out of the same office. Like our manager can just go down the road, and when I say down the road, we have a golf cart. They can just go, right over to the 4 blocks down. And having that in our portfolio would be fantastic, and that's what I look for when we're acquiring properties, and that's what I tell the brokers and the agents in the real estate realm, that, what's my buy box? Well, here's where I'm located. What do you have around here? Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what I've seen on the underwriting, and it's been I mean, 2024 was slow. 2025 is slower than 2024. Last year, we purchased 2 properties. The year before, we purchased 14 properties. Okay. 2025, we haven't purchased any. We've had a lot of LOIs out and a lot of competition in purchasing, but we don't buy ground up. We like to have some money coming in so that um, we can do our magic on the management and the underperforming properties. And but
Well, and
everybody's
you're hearing more and more too that managers are what make or break a property, and whether that be remote, in person, a hub and spoke model, a virtual. I've seen everything. Whatever it is, it needs to work and it needs to make sense for the market you're in. And if
sure.
you can do that, then you're going to do well. But you need to keep an eye on that and keep an eye on training and make sure that you're constantly looking at and improving that.
Yeah, I fully agree. Um, I like being the owner more than I like to be an owner operator, even though on some aspects, I'm at 500 feet, just keeping my finger on the pulse, just to make sure that everything's going the way, and throwing out some, hey, I would like to see this. Is it going to work? And they go, nah, that it probably won't, but we can give it a try. But we found that it doesn't. And I go, look, don't spin your wheels on it because if you think it's not going to work, don't listen to me. I'm not the guy that's doing it every day. I'm just the guy going, hey, I own this property and I'd like to see some things. I'd like to see more money in my pocket. So and it's good to have that, and I have that open communication with, obviously, with the third party management company. So we have our monthly calls, but anytime I pick up the phone or I send a text, or if they have to get a hold of us as the owners and they send a text back to us or say, hey, by the way, we still have two doors that are broken, and we're down to the last one that's rentable. We got to fix these other two doors. If you want to rent out the expensive ones, we got two left. And of course we're like, all right, call somebody up and let's get somebody out there to fix them. Um,
Yeah.
and having that part of my finger on the pulse, I enjoy having to do any of the operations. I just don't have enough experience, and I'm learning, and that's why I do these calls, is because I'm learning, and I'm learning from other people's trial and error and their mistakes and their successes. So I can always throw that out to them, to whomever, or even myself when it comes time to, if I ever decide to be an owner operator, which I doubt that I will, but if I ever decide that. Um, I'm still planning on it. I haven't yet because so much going on in my personal world. I still want to take the CSSM class through the SSA just to learn what it's like to be a store manager. I can imagine what it's like, but I know just being at the site for a couple of weeks and having customers yell at your face at me being the new owner, and I had people tell me that, you're the reason the world is going down. I'm like, what are you talking about? You rich people. I'm like, I'm not rich. Like, I'm doing this to build wealth and I'm not there yet. Like, like I'm a blue collar guy in a white collar job. Like, I'm trying to, but I've had everything from them yell at me and to thank me, and oh my goodness, I've seen you guys have done this, that, and the other thing, and the facility's looking so much nicer. And I've had people, like I said, scream in my face, and I can only imagine being that person at the desk,
Yeah.
you know.
No, and it's just a whole different experience, and I think that that's one reason. Like I always say, like it's not a one size fits all. It's not. You can't just purchase a facility and say I'm going to do this and then you do it. You need someone who's going to, if you don't have operations experience, find someone who does. Talk with them and see if it's something that you're willing to do, or if you need to look outside of that, at a management company and find a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I have a lot of different companies on here, because there's a lot of good ones out there. There's a lot of not so good ones out there, but generally speaking, I'm not going to have the not so good ones on my calls, only because I've already met a lot of these people and talked to them already myself. So if I don't have a good feeling about them, if I wouldn't think about using them, I won't suggest them to anybody else. I build the relationships with people based on their relationship back with me. So like when we first met, we just chit chat, bullshit, this, that, the other thing, and I could tell that you're not pulling my leg on things, right? I don't want to say transparency because that's the new word, but like everything was just like as if, hey, as if. And to me, that's the way you build a relationship with people. And sometimes in order to get the right person in the position that you need, your network is your net worth, right? You got to build the relationships. You got to go out and talk to these, people. Like I saw,
Especially in storage, especially in storage. It's such a small, it seems big, but it's a small industry. And your those relationships and those networking connections, everything that you have there directly impacts, your career trajectory, your clients, how you get those referrals and recommendations, how your name is being spoken in a room when you're not in it. And so
yeah,
paying attention to those things is really only it only comes to your benefit. And so, we're a big enough industry that we can share information and we can give tips and tricks and we can talk and it's like, hey, I'm struggling with this at my facility. Oh, hey, I actually am too. What have you tried? This is what I have tried. Like, let's brainstorm this together. That's the kind of industry we have here. That is what the SSA has brought together. And the more we all talk about that, the more we all share this stuff, the better we're going to be and the healthier of an industry we're going to be because we're all going to learn and grow together.
yeah, you're not solo in it, and I've noticed too that, going to the local facilities around my area, just the regular stores facilities, that they're one-off facilities. And not that they're struggling, they seem to be doing fine. I didn't ask them to see their books, but I think when I speak to them and I go, "Hey, you part of the, New Jersey SSA?" And they're like, "No." And I go, "Well, you should join, come on board, tell them that, when you sign up, tell them that I sent you." And then they go, "Well, who are you?" And I go, "Well, I'm the vice president of the SSA in New Jersey." And they go, "Oh, really?" And what are the benefits? And I go, "Well, look, I can tell you some of the benefits, but you want to research it and get in and start networking with people that are like you, that only own one facility or two facilities, or you're thinking about the facility." And I said, and build your network of people and just have conversations with them, relationships. Like I saw Cedric down in Atlantic City, and just the fact that we've been on a call a few times together, like he saw me because I don't see much, but he saw me, stopped me, and was like, "Hey, James." And I go, "Oh, hey, look, now you're here now." And I'd say, "Okay, well, what are you looking for here? I can tell you who to go talk to." Like I'm just like, go talk to this guy. There's a bunch of third-party management. There's this, there's that, there's this. Ask for that person. Go talk to
Exactly.
them.
And it's just it opens up a whole new opportunity to ask those questions and know those people and know their experience and what they've seen and accomplished because it's an industry where we have been established for so long that there are those ways that are everything we do is rooted in, right? Like we want good customer service. This is how we do rate increases. This is how we don't do rate increases, because we're not begging to get regulated out here. We want
Right.
to work together to make sure that again we stay healthy as an industry and leave room for those questions. And so if anyone ever has questions, like feel free to ask. Ask James, ask me. Cedric, you're learning, but I'm sure people could still ask you questions.
Right.
And it's just a way to come together and network. I mean, that's what this call is. It's asking questions, it's hearing more information, it's learning a little bit more. And that's paramount to our industry.
Well, and joining the SSA, I do recommend everybody joins their state, their state SSA, especially if they're an owner already, because what you were saying is, like we lobby against all of that bureaucratic bullshit that happens in, now we don't personally, but we have attorneys who do, because you don't want it to be regulated. You want it, in New Jersey, it's almost like they say, "Oh, self-storage and housing. Ah, it's the same thing." And you're like, "Whoa, no, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's this stuff, and they're human beings. There's nobody allowed to live in these, and they're only allowed to live in these, right? Like there's a difference. And in order to evict somebody from their stuff should be a lot easier than evicting somebody from their home. So like joining your association helps pay for that, so that you can then know that when you do buy a facility, that somebody's behind you, even if they're 1,000 feet behind you, they got your back, and that's what you're
Yep.
paying for. So I know this is not where we're supposed to be heading with this, but Yeah, I do feel that being part of the self-storage association, it helps, especially when you have a national one where, they're doing stuff on all different levels. They're doing it on state, local, they're doing it on federal, for the whole industry. So it's really good to be part of that. What else do you
Definitely.
have?
Hey,
I
hey,
mean, I
Ginger.
don't have anything else. I just wanted to know if anyone had any questions or anything that I could help with.
Yes, I have one.
Sure.
Yes.
Um, so you were talking about the RVs earlier, and them leaving out at a specific time of year and then maybe returning back. Um, so for what kind of lease are you doing for, say, an RV? I understand boats because they may take them out for the day or the weekend and bring them back and they'll park them. But for RVs, like what type of lease are you guys having for those?
So we offer a month to month and we offer a yearly lease. A yearly lease is going to have more benefits because it's going to lock in their space year round. If you have a monthly lease and you pull out for the summer to go explore, that's absolutely fine. Like please go have that adventure. But just know that when you come back, your space might not be available because you didn't rent it on that yearly basis. You're putting a little bit more risk on being able to find that space and have that space. And not only that, but you're privy to more rent increases. If you have that yearly lease, you're at least locked in for a year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you have an RV and you go park it somewhere and you're on a month to month, well, it could be 3 months in, we give you a rent increase. If you're locked in for a year, well, you're not going to get a rent increase for a year, right? So I'm going to make up a number. It's $50 a month for a year, but
Mhm.
it's $50 a month for the first 3 months, then it's $60 a month for the next 3 months, then it may be $70 a month for the next three, like depending on how often you increase it, because it's guaranteed money and not guaranteed money, right? So
Right.
for as an owner, like I love to jack the prices up and make everybody pay top dollar. But at the same time, I also love having guaranteed money, right? So if I jack it up after the third month, or every quarter, right? If I jack it up and now it's $70, and you can go down the road and get one that's nicer facility for $80, and you move out, right? So there's that fine balance of especially with the RV and boat, because it's literally you hook it up to your truck and you
And
go.
you pull out.
Yeah, it's not like regular storage, where in regular storage, if I raise your rate $10 for you to pack everything back up, take it out of the facility, move down the road to save $5, you're not going to do it. But in a boat and RV, you're 10 minutes, you're gone. If you know how to drive a truck with a trailer on the back of it, it might not even be it might take 5 minutes, you're gone. You pull in, you're
Yep.
an open spot. You're in an open spot. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I mean, my boat could be in the marina, and I could come back and found out that I got a rate increase, and I can go, all right, well, I'm out of here. So I hook up my open or my empty RV or my empty boat trailer, leave, never come back. I go and get my boat and I go someplace else.
Yep.
So so I do like the yearly leases, um, to an extent, but then I also like the monthly ones because,
Well, and it again, it offers you a chance to capture clientele in different stages. If someone's coming to your area because they're visiting and they only need it for a week, but you're going to charge them that minimum of 1 month, the next week you can get someone else in there who's going to pay that exact same amount again, and you
right,
can just you can rinse and repeat that way. But if you have your year-long clients, then you have that guaranteed revenue throughout the year. And I think a good stable RV and boat facility is going to have a fair mix of both because then you can do your revenue management while also maintaining your occupancy. But yeah,
right.
is there or any other questions? Anything else I can help with?
No,
No,
we're
that's
good.
it for me.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
Sydney, I always ask everybody to give out their information if they want to be contacted. How can they reach out to you?
Feel free to give me a call or email me. My phone number is 801-874-7096. And my email is Sydney, so first name dot Wilda at thestoragemanager.com. And my name's on the screen if you need to know how to
Yeah.
spell it.
Yeah, it's the IE at the end, not the Y.
Yes, correct. My mom had to make it tricky for everyone. So
Yes, she did.
awesome. Thank you for having me, James. I really
Yeah,
appreciate the opportunity to
same,
come and chat with
same.
you again.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. All right. See you guys.